Hey y'all, today I thought I would take a few minutes to talk to you guys about canning. I know there's a lot of new canners out there, whether the reason's because of the supposed pending grocery shortages or you've just taken up a new hobby. I don't know, but I thought I would give you some helpful advice. I don't claim to be an expert, but I do have over 20 years canning experience, so take my advice or leave it. That choice is up to you, but I'm going to put this out there for you new guys. This is by no means an all-inclusive list of what you need to know to can. It's just some things that I've thought about or people have asked me about. So I wrote down 10 things I thought you guys should know. When someone comes up to me and tells me they want to start canning, where do they begin? I tell them there's books out there, there's videos out there, there's classes you can take. Here's two of the books that I recommend. Now, my books are going to be older. This one, let's see. This one's from 2009, but Canning and Preserving for Dummies. Probably backwards on your screen, but Canning and Preserving for Dummies, and I'm sure you can still get later editions of that. And this is the Ball Complete Book of Home Preserving, which again, this one's from, sorry about the dog barking, it's not my dog. This one's from 2006, but it's the Ball Complete Book of Home Preserving. This one's a good one. There's a lot of experienced canners on YouTube. Some, if not most, are going to call themselves homesteaders. There's some Mennonite groups on YouTube. That's a good one. Those are good ones. So get you a couple of good books and start watching those YouTube channels with the experienced canners, not the new canners who think they know what they're doing but really don't. The second thing that I would tell people is that they need to be very careful, because botulism is something that you cannot smell, you cannot see it, and you cannot taste it. So you open a can, whether it's from your own pantry or the grocery store, and it has the botulism in it, it's a silent killer, and 5 to 10% of people who get it every year die from it. It can be fatal. Botulism is a toxin that forms in food in low temps where there's low oxygen. So a can or a jar creates the perfect environment for botulism to form. Now, you can kill the bacteria at temperatures above 185. Foods with low acid content are those with a pH above 4.6. Those include fish, milk, potatoes, corn, squash, and many other foods. So if you were to say canned potatoes, which are low acid, and then you want to use them later on, I myself would not use those in like a potato salad. I would, however, use them in a cooked recipe where the temperature is going to be above 185 degrees. So some people will disagree with me, but that's just me. You'll never see me can fish. I do not trust myself. Do not trust the process enough to can any kind of fish. That doesn't mean that I'm saying other people who do are wrong. I just choose not to. We add lemon juice and vinegar to things to bring the acidity up. That's why you can water bath pretty much anything that's pickled that has vinegar in it. But it's very important that you keep a clean work area, that you sterilize your jars, that you sterilize your work area, that you keep it clean, and that you remember that this is your food, and just keep everything really clean to be safe. It's better to be safe than sorry. It's important that you wash your fruits and vegetables before you can them to remove any microorganisms or pests or germs or bugs, all the nasties. You want to get all that off. So I may not mention it in a video, but if you're going to can tomatoes, wash all the tomatoes first. I may not have mentioned it in my pineapple videos, but wash all those pineapples first. Remember, you've got to keep a clean environment. I would recommend, if you're just now starting out, that you start with canning some of the easier things. Don't just jump off into, oh, I'm going to go can some beef. I suggest you start with water bath canning. That's the easiest. There are some dangers with pressure canning, so you would need to get to know your pressure canner really well. And usually you start with learning how to can water. But water bath canning, that's where you take a big stock pot, and spaghetti pot we call them here, and you're gonna learn to do your pint jars in the stock pot. That's where I suggest you start. And you can start with pickling items or jellies or jams. Some people will say those are hard. They're not. Some people just stop before the process is complete. If you want a jam to get thicker, you keep cooking it. You keep simmering it. You don't turn it off and give up. You do the plate in the freezer method where you see how thick it is once it's cool. There's lots of little pointers that you can learn by watching these YouTube channels where they show you their methods, how they can, but start with the easier stuff. Start with those pickles. Start with the pickled peppers, pickled cucumbers, whatever you want to pickle to your heart's desire, but start with the easy stuff so you don't give up when it gets too difficult. One of the easiest recipes in the Ball Canning book is a chocolate raspberry syrup. Look into the Ball Canning book for that recipe. I might make it in the next week or so. Try that one. It's not hard. You can follow the directions to a T, and it tastes really good if you like chocolate and raspberries. Now, as far as those pressure canners, I suggest you go online and you look at some of those pictures where people didn't take it seriously and they've exploded. People can get injured. Your kitchen can get destroyed. Goodbye stove, goodbye canner. So be sure and take those precautions very seriously. Now, there's going to be people who get all excited and they're like, oh, I can make all these things. I want to sell what I can. There are federal and state cottage laws that dictate what you can and cannot sell from your home. And you have to have, sometimes you have to take a class, sometimes you have to get licensing, but be sure and check the federal and state laws in your area before you sell what you have canned at home. Now, the pot I was talking about, like a stock pot or a spaghetti pot, it needs to be deep enough that when your jars are in there, that the water can cover the top of it by at least an inch. So whatever pot you buy or you have that you're going to use, make sure that if you have, now the quart jars are probably going to be too big. You're gonna need a deeper pot. I personally have pots that I cook crawfish and stuff in that I can bring in and use, or I can use the bottom of my canner, but it takes so long for that water to heat up. So there's nothing that says you can't can outside, just like we cook crawfish outside. In the bottom of my pans that are not pressure cookers, I have a trivet that goes in the bottom. It just keeps your jars from touching the bottom of the pan. I also have pans that have nothing, and I just throw a pot holder in the bottom or a towel in the bottom. You just don't want the jar sitting directly on the bottom of the pan. Other than a stock pot, you're going to want to get a jar lifter. It's kind of like the forceps is not the right word, like tongs. I don't know why I said forceps. It's like tongs that grab the jar and lift it out of the hot water and lower it in the hot water. You're going to want a set of jar. You're going to want a jar lifter. Now that you're learning how to can, do not be a canning Karen. They're everywhere right now and they drive us crazy. They're one of those people that they've learned a few recipes and they're going to tell the rest of us how to can. I'm not here to tell you how to can or how not to can. I'm just telling you how I do it, and you can take that and do whatever you want to with it. It's your kitchen, it's your rules. The government has a USDA website where they give you recommendations on how to can and not can. Again, you can take that information and do what you want to with it. My chickens are running behind me. Some of these canning Karens act like they're repping for the USDA and they're the canning police, and I will block you every time. I don't care if you think it's not okay to can butter or meat, that you have to pressure can this or water bath that. You do it your way, I do it my way. I'm not asking you to eat what I can. We get it. You read the USDA manual, but that doesn't mean you get to dictate what I do in my kitchen. If you don't want to can something a certain way, it makes you nervous, then just don't do it. Or you could find a way to do it safely in a way that makes you comfortable. Now, everyone wants to know why so much sugar is used in canning recipes. You can omit the sugar from a lot of recipes. If you're just starting out, I don't suggest you do so. I suggest you find recipes that don't have sugar if you don't want to use sugar. The reason being that you may not understand that that jam requires 2 hours of simmering to get it to the desired thickness. I would suggest that you not try to use artificial sweeteners until you've learned what you're doing in regards to canning. The only artificial sweetener I know of that supposedly works is Splenda. Supposedly Splenda works. I don't know. I don't like artificial sweeteners, so I've never tried it. But sugar acts as a thickener as well as a sweetener. So there's your answer. We're either using it to thicken or we're using it to sweeten. If you're not going to use sugar in your recipe, you definitely want a recipe that uses pectin so that your jellies or jams get thicker. But there are plenty of recipes out there that don't have sugar in them. And the birds are crazy today. But there's plenty of recipes that don't require sugar if you're just trying to avoid sugar. You don't want to make your recipe and then find out that artificial sweeteners turn bitter after sitting in a can for a while. Now there is we're always telling you in our videos to make sure your jars are sealed. You'll hear the ping, but you'll want to push down on the lid and make sure that it's not giving and bouncing anymore when you push down on it. If it does, then it hasn't sealed. You can reuse your lids. Everybody's going to have a difference of opinion. Everyone is going to have a difference of opinion on that, but you can, in a pinch, reuse your lids. You don't want to use ones that are bent or that have the rubber seal messed up or ones that are rusted. But otherwise, I know lots of people that reuse their lids, and I've reused my lids at times too. The most important part of canning is don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to ask questions. The only stupid question is the one you don't answer, and then you hurt yourself or you hurt someone else. So don't be afraid to ask questions. We're all happy to answer them. But the only thing we're not happy to do is argue with canning Karens. So if you're excited about canning and you want to learn more, go out there and join those groups, watch more of these canning videos, and get you some of these books. Congratulations on taking the first step in learning how to can, and welcome to the world of canning. Thank you guys for watching. If you haven't already, please subscribe.